And on to debate number 2. A controversy over centre's alleged imposition of the Hindi language has broken out once again. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister MK Stalin has written to the centre, accusing it of enforcing one language, one religion and one culture. A parliamentary committee's proposal on Hindi to be used as a medium of instruction in central universities and all technical and non-technical institutes has sparked a storm. The panel, headed by Union Home Minister Amit Shah, has recommended that the medium of instruction in technical and non-technical higher education institutes such as IITs should be Hindi in Hindi-speaking states and the respective local language in other parts of India. This has irked the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister MK Stalin, who then shot off a letter to the Prime Minister and even posed a series of tweets claiming that the rigorous thrust by the Centre for Hindi imposition is negating the diversity of India, and that was happening at an alarming pace. Let's listen into the DMK.
See, there are 22 officially accepted languages in India, and each state has a language. The states are also divided into linguistic states, which means the earlier governments want to preserve the languages, and each language has a separate culture, and everybody knows that. Why Hindi? See, there are many important issues which has to be dealt by this government. Today, this morning I heard the news that the Sensex had fallen by 819 rupees and the dollar rate is increasing like anything. The economy is not good. This government does not care about all these things. They care about language and religion, which is not the role of the government.
However, this is the first time over the fight over Hindi imposition that has erupted. The Tamil Nadu Chief Minister has often criticized the Modi government of attempting to make Hindi as a national language. In April, Union Home Minister Amit Shah's statement saying that Hindi should be accepted as an alternative to English stirred a massive row, after which MK Stalin urged the centre to make Tamil at par with Hindi and make it an official language in government offices and at the Madras High Court. Remember, the Prime Minister had himself made it clear that BJP considered every regional language worth worshipping and that it gave equal importance to every language. But perhaps that hasn't been enough for Stalin and others who question the centre's motives. Meanwhile, the AIADMK has also said that no other language entering the state is acceptable for them. Listen in.
AIADMK stand is also clear that we are always in support of a two-language policy, English and Tamil. Any other language finding its means and ways to inroad into TN is not acceptable. But however, the difference between AIADMK and DMK is we never use language and livelihood to instigate people to cover up the inefficiencies. And yesterday in his party meet, he cried out loud saying that his people, his peers are causing him larger trouble by their irresponsible statements. So to cover up their inefficiencies, now he has triggered this language row. It is usual for DMK to take the stand of language and livelihood to instigate people and use it as a diversion policy.
Let's also listen to what the BJP had to say, that Stalin's claims are clearly unfounded. That's a statement coming in from the BJP. Let's listen in.
I think he has mistaken as usual, or he has been misled by anyone, because the statement or the recommendations which released in part, which has come out in part, should be read out very carefully. It very clearly states that only for the Hindi-speaking states, that is the 11 states, it is compulsory that Hindi should be there, because in all these states, English is used more than Hindi. That's what they have said. Even in advertisements, they have very clearly said that Hindi plus the regional languages, not English. So this is in order to abolish English, in order to get away with the English, we are trying to give preference to our regional languages. That's what this recommendation very clearly says.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 2 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
All right, Shehzad and Tehseen Poonawalla both join us continue with us on the panel, but joining us is SS Sriram, political analyst. Let me first and foremost go across to A. Sarvanan, spokesperson of the DMK. Mr. Sarvanan, what is stated here by the BJP is that this local language rule that is being brought in is where Hindi will be brought in only for institutes where Hindi is the predominant language or the local language, and that the regional language or the local language will be brought in institutes in their respective states. So what is the problem if the regional language, including in the high courts and other higher education institutions, is brought in? Is there something in principle wrong with that Mr. Stalin is objecting to?
See, the finer point that we all have to note is this. English is the bulwark against Hindi majoritarianism. Only because Hindi prevailed in our country, India has become a superpower, an economic might, because we had an English-speaking population and we had good command. The people had good command and we were able to transact in English. So this is the fundamental thing which we cannot forget. And when we are speaking about this parliamentary panel's recommendation, what it does try to is do away with English and bring in Hindi. We have to look at this with what Mr. Amit Shah said a few months back, that Hindi is the language which will unite us all, which should link us all. This debate has been settled long back, that English will also be the link language. We want the people who does not speak Hindi want English to be the link language to continue to do so, because when you do away with English, when Hindi is going to be there, everybody, a non-native speaker of Hindi will automatically become a second-class citizen. Whatever training I may get, however fluent I may be, but I can never compete with someone whose mother tongue is Hindi.
Okay,
and yes.
Two very important points. Mr. Sarvanan, let's go point by point. I think you've made two very pertinent points. I'm going to come across to Shehzad. I want Mr. SS Sriram to respond to those 2 points. Mr. Sriram, there are 2 points that are being made over here. One is, of course, English being a link language. That is very much a fact, whether it's competitive exams or medium of education. English does act as that link language, which makes it easy for people to move across states and conduct their business or education or whatever else they may want to. At the same time, there's also a very important fact about how English has certainly helped us, in our communication, in our higher education abroad, in our relations, with corporates, etc. It does make things that much simpler, is what Mr. Sarvanan is saying, and I think those 2 are very fair points. Your response to both those points, Mr. Sriram.
Yeah, good evening. First of all, let us also know that this is the 11th report. This is not the first report, and I'm sure DMK was part of 3 reports at least in the past. Of this Parliamentary Committee report on Hindi. The 2011 report by Mr. P. Chidambaram when DMK was part of UPA had 117 recommendations on how to improve Hindi. Well, Mr. Sarvanan did not probably have that intention or idea as to what would that be when he was a the government. Now all of a sudden he thinks that it is going to be imposing on Tamil Nadu. See, they were part of this committee. Committee is a constitutional body set up in 76. They have to do their job, and the president has to accept the committee's recommendations, and nowhere it says that it is going to impose Hindi on non-Hindi speaking states. It only says that wherever possible, as mentioned by one of the BJP spokesperson, it's going to be on the 11 states which speak Hindi and rest of the states with their local language. And in fact, let us be clear that only this new education policy which gives thrust on the regional languages. To cry a baby cry now when he was a part of the union government 3 times where they did not do anything to do about this Hindi imposition or the so-called committees which are giving recommendations for improving Hindi, now coming and talking as though Mr. Amit Shah is after everyone's blood, is a simple election or simple political ticking. That is the only thing which I see in Mr. Sarvanan's reaction.
Just give me 10 seconds.
Okay, yes,
10 seconds to me.
Sarvanan.
Yeah. To me, Madhav, 10 seconds to me.
Please go ahead, sir. Floor is yours.
Yeah. See, the problem here is this. When you are going to say the regional language, what you are saying is indirectly what the BJP government is saying is let's do away with English, because they are trying to give it a colonial tag. English is a colonial language. I am saying any language.
Why did you forget this when you were in power? Is this question to you?
Language to me.
I'm going to take that question forward, but Mr. Sarvanan, why did you forget this aspect when you were in power and part of the UPA government?
I'm coming to it, Madhav. See, BJP is the party which is pandering to Hindi majoritarianism. We did not have this problem with the earlier governments. BJP is trying to forcefully impose Hindi. The kind of money that is spent on Hindi is not spent on any other language.
Okay.
$800,000 promoting Hindi in the UN, 80 crore rupees every year for promotion of Hindi, 600 crores for promotion of Sanskrit. Is this not imposition? Can you name any one scheme which is not named in
Where
Hindi.
is this Hindi
Any
imposition
Indian
happening is the
government
question that
named in
BJP is
Hindi.
asking.
You are
Okay, let me
collecting
put that question.
taxpayers' money.
Let me
The
put that
money
question.
is
You've still not
collected
answered my
from
question, but
every
my
speaking
question to
language.
Shehzad Poonawalla still remains. Shehzad Poonawalla, imposition of Hindi is happening. The intent of this government with its repeated rhetoric surrounding Hindi language is there. And secondly, what happens? And I think one question that is a fair question is that today, whether it's IITs, IIMs, or these higher education institutions, there's a common entrance examination and students can aspire to go to any part of the country. What will end up happening is that these institutes will also become regional institutes that cater only to one particular state. Is that a desirable situation at all?
You know, I think we are putting the cart before the horse. First of all, let's accept the fact that on this panel too, none of us are Hindi speakers. Even my mother tongue is Marathi. Prime Minister and Home Minister also actually come from a Gujarati speaking state, not from a Hindi speaking state. And having said that, this is not about imposition of Hindi. This is about using an Indian language for integration. And by the way, this was not the game plan of the BJP. Let me give you a few facts about this. Hindi Divas started in 1949. When the constitution came into force, it was decided that for 15 years English would last, and thereafter Hindi would be the only official language. This was not done by the BJP. BJP was not even around at that time. The Committee on Parliamentary Affairs on Official Languages came about in 1976 after the Official Language Act of 1963, which promoted Hindi. And let me tell you the 9th report which Sriram Ji was talking about. Let me give you a few recommendations that were given in that. Central government employees should increase the use of Hindi. Hindi use should increase in computers in central government offices. Point 28 says that the NIC needs to use Hindi content for websites. Point 33 said that compulsory Hindi in CBSE and KV schools. This is all signed by Chidambaram Ji while they were in power with the Congress. Point 48, use Hindi in advertisements of central government. Point 52, 50% allocation of library budget for buying Hindi books. Point 65, Hindi should be used in railways, whether it's announcement or on tickets. Point 72, urges the MEA to make sure that Hindi is added as a 7th language in the United Nations. All of these are recommendations of the committee on which Mr. Chidambaram and the DMK government signed off on. Point number one. Point number two, I'll ask Mr. DMK's spokesperson or the Congress spokesperson what we have done in the last few years. We quoted the Tamil poet in the United Nations General Assembly. We launched the biography of Thiruvalluvar in North Indian schools. We supported Jallikattu. We've taken Subramania Bharati Chair of Tamil Studies in Banaras Hindu University.
Right.
We've supported first Green Corridor Railway in Tamil Nadu. We've given the first national highway from Dhanukodi.
I'm going to come to those points.
Of AIMS,
I'm going to come to those points because
now
I don't
you
want
tell
to...
me 5 points the UPA did for Tamil Nadu.
I don't want to...
5 points the UPA did for Tamil Nadu.
Let me go across to Tehseen with a simple point that is being made. The same point that is being made today about going to the United Nations as far as Hindi language is concerned is something that is part of the 9th report which is just being quoted by Mr. Sriram and Shehzad Poonawalla. Now, if that is the case, and Mr. Chidambaram today says that this has grave dangers for, imposition of Hindi, etc., and for the fabric of this country, so isn't that being a little economical with the truth in that case, Tehseen Poonawalla, by both the DMK and by the Congress party?
Not at all. And that's where the Bharatiya Janata Party, or the Bada Jhota Party, as I called them, is completely exposed. Now, let's get facts. As the BJP spokesperson rightly said, the Honorable Prime Minister comes from the great state of Gujarat, a state where my mom and his mom was born. Why doesn't the Honorable Prime Minister in the United Nations speak in Gujarati? Why does he have to speak in Hindi? He can speak in Gujarati. It's a beautiful Indian language. He can speak in Gujarati. Tomorrow, if Stalin Ji becomes Prime Minister, if there's a Prime Minister from Kerala, Stalin Ji should speak in Tamil. If there's a Prime Minister from Kerala, he should speak in Malayalam. If there's a Prime Minister from Karnataka, he should speak in the language. Maharashtrian Prime Minister should speak in Marathi. Why should the Prime Minister speak in Hindi? Point number one. That shows the intention of the Prime Minister. Point number two. Every single BJP leader, including this Amit Shah's son Jai Shah, who's sitting in BCCI, every single one of them goes to Western universities, learns English, goes to the best of universities. Their fathers tweet, my son is graduating from this university and that, but they don't want your kids to learn English. Why? English should be learned because English is the global language. It opens economic opportunities for you. And one last point. Today, when the parliament and there's going to be a reconstitution of the parliament, and there's going to be the new seats that are going to come in after delimitation, the Hindi heartland, which has had a higher population, will be rewarded with more seats, and the southern states and the western states, which have had a lower population, will be rewarded or will be punished with lesser seats. Why? Why is that happening? These are the fundamental questions that should be answered. Why does every BJP leader son study English or daughter study English? Why? And
you're
why
punishing certain states and also the hypocrisy of certain leaders. Once again, I'm coming to you. Sarvanan, I'm coming to you. Let Shehzad respond to the questions Tehseen has raised. I'm coming to you, Sarvanan. Just a minute. Shehzad, quickly respond. Is this hypocrisy on part of political leaders?
Let me expose Tehseen's hypocrisy and lack of knowledge. He said, why doesn't the Prime Minister speak in Gujarati when he goes to the United Nations platform? So, the constitution was put into force, why did you replace English with the other official language, Hindi? There were other official languages including Gujarati, Marathi and others. Why did the founding fathers and the constitution, one second, don't interrupt me. Why did please do not interrupt, let me speak, then you can speak. Why did the makers of the constitution, and there was no BJP leader there in that sense, so why did you not make sure that any other official language could replace English? Why did you insist only on Hindi replacing English as a link language? First of all. Secondly, please tell me, there is no Rashtra Bhasha. In India, there is no Rashtra Bhasha. But there is a Rashtra Bhavna. More people speak Hindi. Even as a Marathi speaker, I acknowledge that. Even as a Gujarati speaker, my mother will acknowledge that, and Prime Minister will acknowledge that. That maximum people in this country, if you see by the size, more people speak Hindi. So which language should be spoken in when you go to an international platform? And by the way, 193 countries, how many of them use foreign languages when they are on that platform? So if India uses an Indic language, they actually have a problem. We don't have a problem with English. We all speak in English, we learnt in English. But they have a problem with anything that represents the cultural heritage of this country, which is the Indic languages. And therefore, this is a problem against all regional languages.
There is a difference over there. All right, quickly, Tehseen, and then I'll go across to other panelists. Quickly, Tehseen.
He said 193 countries speak in their language. Why is Gujarati not Indian language? Why can't the Prime Minister speak Indian language, which is the great language of Gujarati? Because the Prime Minister does not want to speak in Gujarati, because the Prime Minister is insulting the great people of Gujarat by not speaking in a language. If he's born in Gujarati, tomorrow if I am Prime Minister and I go to the United Nations, I'll speak in Marathi. Why should I not speak in Marathi? Why should I?
That is because you have a parochial mindset, and there is not everybody who has a parochial mindset. That's a simple answer to that.
All right, who's being parochial? Okay, who's being parochial? Who's being parochial?
Why do your kids study English and not our kids?
Which is your bhavna?
How many English schools did the Honorable Prime Minister, when he was Chief Minister, open in Gujarat? Zero.
Okay,
Zero
1 second.
English schools. They don't want English.
1 second, let me just come in. I'm
and
quoting.
their kids study English. That's
all right, Tehseen, you made your point. I want to go across to Mr. Sriram with one very important point. 1 second, just hold on. You know, this entire feeling today, Mr. Sriram, and it may be justified that perhaps learning becomes easier in one's regional language. But the larger question is, when we're talking about technical education, we're not talking about primary education here, mind you, and that itself poses a different set of problems. What happens to government employees, for instance, who are shifted from one state to the other and government postings for just about 2-3 years? What do their kids do when they go suddenly to a new state and the medium of instruction is something that they know nothing about, and then move on to another state? If there's no link language in that sense, what happens? And then does Hindi get imposed, as Mr. Sarvanan's fears are, and those become true? Question number one. Question number two to you, sir, is that I'm reading a report from just August this year, where the Madhya Pradesh government, which had in fact said that MBBS in Hindi is a good idea, but medical experts ask, where are the quality textbooks? So this is very, very far from being implemented today. If the adequate basic structure of learning, building block of learning, textbooks even are not available in even Hindi, leave alone other regional languages, how will that all be implemented, sir? And aren't we very far away from that? Mr. Sriram.
No, I agree to your point. I'm sure these are only recommendations, and we'll have to wait and see whether the president gives her consent. I'm sure there is a thought that has to be gone again into this as far as the committee's recommendations are concerned. I also would like to point out one more thing. I would like to point out the Times of India October 01, 2018 data, which says in Tamil Nadu between 2001 to 2011, people who have learned Hindi has gone up by 50%. So there is, despite the fact that there is a ban on Hindi in Tamil Nadu, people are interested to learning the language. So my point is, you have to give the option to people to choose the language, and no government is trying to impose upon it. Your data, your Times of India data says this. 50% of people in Tamil Nadu has increased learning Hindi. So there are gaps. I don't deny the fact that the committee should also have a proper backup.
I want A. Sarvanan to respond to that, because there is
Hindi,
this is data being quoted of Tamil Nadu.
Learn the language as well.
Okay, Mr. Sriram, please respond. Now Sarvanan is responding to you.
Nadu, yeah.
People in Tamil Nadu, a large chunk of people in Tamil Nadu actually want to learn Hindi.
That we are, whatever Mr. Sriram has said is buttressing our point. We are not against. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, agreed. That is what we are saying. We are not against Hindi. There are Hindi Prachar Sabhas which say Tamil Nadu, people in Tamil Nadu are learning Hindi. We are not against anybody who is going to try learn Hindi out of their own free will. We are not against it. That is what we are. We are tolerant. We want to every language to grow, but don't impose it on us. Look at the way the union government is spending money, the money paid from the taxpayers of Malayalam speakers, Telugu speakers, Kannada speakers, Bengali speakers. That is spent on promoting Hindi. In a federal structure, can this happen? This is the question we want to ask you. And Mr. Shehzad was talking about the 2009 report, 11 report, the 9th report, which was passed in UPA. And that is why we are doing it. That is exactly our fear. The UPA did not implement all those things. Right now, we have started doing it. What will prevent you from doing this? Because it has already been recommended.
Okay.
So that is why we are opposing. We are opposing all these things at the inception. That is why our leader, Mr. MK Stalin, says, please don't allow us to go to another language.
Respond to that. Shehzad, UPA did not implement it because we resisted. That's the difference. It's going to be implemented today. And also, larger question. What happens to languages such as Urdu? Because tomorrow then, AMU and Jamia will start asking for Urdu to become their local language. So what happens? Because there's no end to this debate.
First of all, if they were so against the recommendation itself, then why did they allow it to be proposed? And the question that is being implemented or not is not a matter. The matter is that why was it proposed and how you allow the proposals to be made if you are so against it. Point number one, shows your hypocrisy. Secondly, those who are saying that we are not against Hindi, we know the series of statements that have come from DMK ministers about Hindi speaking people, which were most atrocious. And thirdly, Tehseen Poonawalla said that why don't you speak in Gujarati when you go to United Nations, etc.
Completely out of time. Shehzad, completely out of time. I'm sorry I have to cut you short there. Shehzad Poonawalla, Tehseen Poonawalla, A. Sarvanan and Mr. Sriram, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us. It's a very, very important debate, certainly, and a very important debate because it concerns a very key area of education. But before we end the show, ladies and gentlemen, just a few hours from now, Ujjain will immerse itself in Shiv Bhakti, where preparations are in full swing for the grand opening of the Mahakal Lok, the over 900-meter long corridor touted as one of the longest of its kind in India, and all eyes are on the Prime Minister Modi for his Ujjain darshan. We're leaving you with